Hello, everyone, and welcome to this edition of Amateur Golf Talk Live. I'm your host, Shan Coughlin, and on the line today we have a very special guest, a good friend of mine from a place that many of you don't know. I lived for about 11 years. Mr. Greg Wires, the publisher of the Golf Minnesota Media Properties, is on with us. Hello, Greg.
Good morning, Shan.
How are you this morning?
I'm terrific. How are you?
I'm doing great. Hey, here in a balmy 58-degree climate in South Carolina, I understand you guys are missing that weather of the Northeast today.
Yeah, we're not getting the big one. We're certainly not 58 degrees out, but we got a little half inch of snow, but no, we're fortunate we're not in Boston or New York City, I guess.
I know. We're going to wish everyone up in the Northeast safety throughout this storm and remind you it's a great time to make your travel plans to warmer climates. But, Greg, Minnesota is where my golf career actually started, there at Manitou Ridge when I took my first job at a golf course, one you know well.
Manitou Ridge, one of the courses owned and operated by Ramsey County.
Oh, my gosh. I know. I lived up there with my folks, actually graduated high school in Minnesota, went to the University of Minnesota, and then ran into you a year ago with Golf Minnesota. And now we're going to talk a little bit today about the 20th anniversary of the magazine. Tell us a little bit about that and what got you started.
Sure. Well, the real thing that got me started was I needed a job. But,
yeah, me too.
Right. But, I saw a need. There was not really any sort of a publication, a print publication for just your everyday average golfers. Some put out by the association for their members, but with 800,000 or so golfers up here in Minnesota, and maybe whatever number, 60 or 70,000 members of the MGA, the rest of the population, golfing population, could use something. So I went out and found enough support to get it started, and now here we are 20 years later.
Well, I didn't realize there were 400 or so golf courses in the state.
Yeah, it's amazing. They say, I guess, that Minnesota has the most golfers per capita. I'm not sure if that's entirely true, but we do get out in those months that we can play. Typically, about 6 months. People think it's maybe shorter than that, but we'll play from early April till we can't play anymore in the winter and in the late fall.
Well, I do remember those snowfly tournaments.
Sure.
And usually it was October. Lucky if you made it into the 1st of November, but the first Saturday after the first snowfall was the last round we would play there.
Right.
I don't know if they still do that, but
oh yeah. If there's no snow on the ground and the superintendents will let you out on the grass, people will play golf.
Well, and Minnesota, I guess to those of us who grew up in the South or who live in the South, we don't generally think of as a golf mecca, but Minnesota has hosted some major events.
Yeah, I think really just about every major event. Couple of U.S. Opens, U.S. Women's Opens, PGA Championships, and coming up in 2016, we will host the Ryder Cup at Hazeltine National Golf Course here in the Twin Cities.
Well, I know that folks will look forward to seeing just all the. That's just a beautiful golf course. All the scenery there, and the weather should be superb at that time, and it is an absolute gorgeous golf course. Give us a couple of highlights.
Well, it's really big. It's a big, long course. I'm not sure what it'll play to. It may become the first 8,000-yard golf course out there. There may be one somewhere else or something, but it's big. They've hosted several national championships. It's like you said, it's a really beautiful layout, and it was opened several years ago with the intention, it's a serious golf course, but they built it with the intention of attracting major championships, and they've been successful in doing that.
Absolutely, because I remember back when I lived there, it's one of the years they hosted, I believe, a U.S. Open.
Yeah.
Yes.
Sure.
So
James Stewart won one up here, and years before that, Tony Jacklin won a U.S. Open up here.
So not to not names unfamiliar with those of us who love the sport. So
Right.
again, a great layout. But I do remember from my time spent there, again, between 10 and 11 years, everyone loved to visit the north, the Iron Range when it got warm because
Sure.
of the beauty. And there's some fantastic resorts there.
Yeah, there are, Shan. There's probably 13, 14 maybe of what I call really premier destination golf resorts. You know, the Iron Range you mentioned. There's some great ones up there, and I'd be happy to talk to you about those. There's also the Brainerd Lakes area, which is kind
Yes.
of where upscale resort golf in Minnesota got its start back in the early 1990s. If you'd like, I run through some information.
Absolutely, especially and when I remembered every time going north, you had to take a fishing pole, your golf clubs, and a canoe. It is the land of 10,000 lakes, but I think almost all of them are in that northern area.
It is indeed the land of 10,000 lakes and beautiful northern woods as well. There's places like the first one I'll mention is Breezy Point Resort. It's a 90-year-old resort in that Brainerd Lakes area. They've had a lot of famous people there, golfers and non-golfers alike. I mean, people like Clark Gable, Carol Lombard used to vacation up there, and then they got into the golf business real early too. I don't have the exact year, but somewhere in the 1920s. Built a course called the Traditional Golf Course, and that players like Walter Hagen and Patty Berg and what have you played at that golf. And then they added White Birch, a championship course, and then they recently purchased Deacon's Lodge, which is a course designed by Arnold Palmer. So, they have three beautiful options and a terrific resort.
Well, Breezy Point is beautiful. Like I said, I had been up there to visit, not recently, but I'm sure it's just getting better and better. But definitely an area you'd want to visit. And a lot of our Canadian listeners probably a little more familiar with that area than those of us who are in the South, but must see. Absolutely.
Yeah, the real upscale golf was started by a resort called Grandview Lodge. They're actually... they're listed on National Historic Registry or one of those, listed as a National Historic Landmark. They had the first real upscale golf course in Minnesota, 27-hole facility called the Pines, and it's the name implies that it's built among the tall pine trees of north central Minnesota. So they've got that 27-hole course, and then shortly after that they opened a course called the Preserve. It's not right on site, but just a few miles away, and they'll, of course, shuttle you to wherever you go. Two really terrific golf courses. They're probably the most awarded Minnesota golf resort from the various national publications and what have you. And they've got a lot of neighbors, Shan, or at least a couple of really good neighbors. A place called Madden's Resort. Again, they've been around for many decades, many generations. It, like most of them, is a nice family resort, and their course they have courses that have been on site for a long time. But when they got into the upscale or the highly sought after type of golf course, they built a course that's called the Classic.
Okay.
And you've probably heard of it. Most of your listeners would have heard of it. It's almost always in the top 100 list of public courses and resort courses and things that you can play around the country. And it's not just the golf. I mean, the golf is really wonderful. Like I say, they have their original courses, Pine Beach, East and West, and what have you. But they're also a really great hotel and resort property. They were recently, I think last year, named by Condé Nast Reader's Choice as a top, I think number 53 or something, best hotel and resort in the world.
Wow.
So they get a lot of accolades, and it's funny. I mean, you can go up there and you can pick any one of these and have a really great outing, both for golf and non-golf activities. There's a third one up there I'll mention quick too, called Craigan's. And these three that I've mentioned, Grandview, Madden's, and Craigan's, they're all on Gull Lake, and I'm sure you remember Gull Lake
yes.
from your days living back here. The governor likes to often have his fishing opener up there on Gull Lake, and it's just a beautiful, expansive lake. But Craigan's, they decided to get into the golf industry, I think, around 1999. They brought in Robert Trent Jones Jr. He built 36 of when they first came out, I called them the most artistic golf courses in Minnesota. I mean, they're just beautiful, well built. They called it the Dutch Legacy after Dutch Cragen, about the Cragen family. He's been working at the place since he was a very young man, and or a young boy. Honestly, I think his parents opened the resort, but so the resort opened in 1940, and then, like I say, the late 90s, that they came in with these two beautiful courses right there in that Brainerd Lakes, Gull Lake area. So those are all three really great ones in that Brainerd Lakes part of the state.
Well, I tell you, I remember Gull Lake, and I believe I'm not a huge fisher person, but do they still? Is it Northern Pike? Is that the big?
Yes, Northern Pike. Although walleye is probably
walleye
the most sought after.
Okay, I know it's known for that. Yes, we, here on this show, we like to, just bring all things we feel like that would interest the amateur golfers around the country and around the world, as we do welcome our international listeners from over 160 different countries, and,
Sure.
and happy to do that. And so we just want to let them know everything we have to offer here. And I think this publication that you've put together, and then this 20th anniversary one, is a great highlight. And it really, it not only gives the directory, like you say, of all the courses, but a lot of great information about everything Minnesota has to offer. Let's let everyone know how they might take a look at it, get their hands on it.
Sure.
Where is it available?
The easiest way is to go to our website, which is golfminnesota.com, and we've had the website live since 1997, so there is a lot of information there. We mostly try to get you basic information, but more than that, links to the different properties. So you go to our Minnesota Golf Vacations page, which is right on the homepage of Golf Minnesota.
Mm-hmm.
The map opens up. It shows you the logos of these resorts and several others. And you click those links, and you're right there at their site rather than ours, so they can tell you all about it, the properties. And once, like when you first started this conversation, you talked about the iron range, and I would be not doing service to your listeners if I didn't mention the two or three that are up there. Jeffrey Brower, a designer out of Texas, came up and first built a place called Giants Ridge, and they have 36 holes called the Legend and the Quarry. The Quarry is one of the most unique courses that you will find. In fact, Golf Digest, I think, called them one of America's most important courses. And it's a course that's really designed as a tribute to the mining history of that iron range.
All right.
Built on a repurposed industrial site, an old sand and gravel mine quarry.
Interesting. Okay.
Yeah, and it's unusual, but it's really a lot of accolades up there. And then this Jeffrey Brower, I don't know if any of your listeners know him, but he was they saw his work there at Giants Ridge, a native-owned casino called Fortune Bay, and they've brought him up to build the Wilderness. That's a personal favorite. I really like. I mean, I love all these. You can't say a favorite to be like saying your favorite child or something. But,
well, I was going to put you on the spot, but you got past that one.
Yeah, the Wilderness is one to look for, and I think you have a pretty good Canadian audience there. And the casino there actually they've got like 6 restaurants, and recently added a Tim Hortons. So
wow,
your Canadian listeners can come down, and they're probably pretty familiar with it.
Right.
It has all the amenities that the typical casino would have with the gaming and what have you. So,
well, Greg, we've just I feel like tipped the iceberg here on everything that
Sure.
Minnesota really has to offer, and you even mentioned the casinos. I remember quite well there. And then the other thing about Minnesota is, as you travel the state, you really go from some low-lying areas to ones that would have some great elevation changes. You really get a little bit of everything.
Right, you absolutely do.
All right. Well, God, our time is already up. I knew this would go fast.
Yeah.
We talked about that.
Right. Well, the best thing to do, like I say for your listeners, is
Right.
go to golfminnesota.com, go to the vacations page. I mean, yeah, we've just touched the very beginning of places like Superior National, right there on Lake Superior, world's largest freshwater lake, and then other casino courses here in the Twin Cities, Meadows at Mystic Lake, and Grand National at Hinckley, and yeah, we've just got, like I say, 13 or 14 destination resorts that I know your listeners would enjoy spending time at.
All right. Well, we will also put the links to that out on thegolfdirector.com. Greg, thank you so much for your time, and I do hope that you will be back to give us more information about Minnesota golf and golfminnesota.com.
I would love to do it, Shan. I enjoyed talking to you.
Thank you. All right, Mr. Greg Wires, publisher of the Golf Minnesota Media Properties, which includes golfminnesota.com, Golf Minnesota Magazine, and several other apps, etc. Definitely check out his website as soon as you get a chance. TGD Radio and TV are produced and broadcast by the Zeus Radio Network for thegolfdirector.com. When visiting the Golf Director, navigate over to our featured golf course pages where you'll find up-to-date information about course conditions, specials, and much more. If you need help with your next golf vacation, give us a call at 844-GO-GOLF-1. That's 844-GO-GOLF-1, 844-464-6531. All of our TGD programming is archived for listening and viewing on demand. So to catch up on a show you may have missed, click on the TGD Radio and TGD TV tabs in the menu at thegolfdirector.com. This is Shan Coughlin, and on behalf of our guest today, Mr. Greg Wires of Golf Minnesota, we thank you for tuning in. There's more TGD golf news and information coming up next, so don't go anywhere.